characters. Good evening, Pads and Mercs. Today we're going to be going over Battletech. Why do we love the Gauss rifle? The Gauss rifle. I know everyone's going to try to correct me on that one, but you just, yeah. Anyways, this one's by Mechanical Frog again. I really liked their video the last time. I want to see what they had to say about the Gauss rifle. With that said, grab your snacks, grab your drinks, and let's roll the film. Why do we love the Gauss rifle?
Solid nickel ferrous projectile through the barrel of a rifle at incredible.
I think I'll restart it.
When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary to accelerate a solid nickel ferrous projectile through the barrel of a rifle at incredible speeds.
So pretty much every Tuesday, because of everything that's going on the inner sphere, and then outside of that, if you're, I believe it's called canister scum, if you're referring to the clanners. Either way, it's always a requirement to have some sort of projectile going Mach fuck.
And to assume among the powers of the earth, gods, the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature, nature's God, entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to obliterate as many mechs as deemed necessary. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that a Gauss rifle shall create equals on the battlefield, where some are endowed with technological gifts beyond those preserved through previous strife and hardship. Few sounds in the Battletech universe have as much universal respect and trigger as much fear in the hearts of Mechwarriors as the sound of a Gauss rifle shot bullying. I
don't know. I would say this Atlas is AC-20 buried in his chest also gives much fear as well. Now, whether that's on an Atlas or on a trash can, I'll leave that up to the viewer to discern which one's more terrifying, but still. Also, I can tell that I think they were struggling a bit with Photoshop, trying to get these damn things cut out. And I suffer with this when it comes to Photoshop as well. I'm not saying that to call him out, by the way. I'm just like, I know it sucks trying to make sure that the Atlas or any pictures like cut out properly for these sorts of videos or thumbnails. I like, especially that one, there was that one video that I did, could we do Mechs IRL? That thumbnail, that text, basically I had to like duplicate it and try to cut out the text to try to get it to line up properly. It took a good 30 minutes to get that done. It looks good, but again, I feel bad when you have to cut stuff like this out, because this is about the only good reference material you get for these sorts of mechs. It's a strange rabbit hole, and probably very, very minuscule amount of people would actually know or have enough relevance for that particular point. Anyways,
its way through the atmosphere toward its target. Often described as a crack, the molecules that make up the gases of the planet's atmosphere just cannot be pushed out of the way fast enough. This creates a sonic boom that can do terrible things to unshielded eardrums, fragile objects, and the unprotected jumpsuits of anyone not expecting it.
This is why they test your hearing almost every year or so, because they want to document how much these autocannons have messed up your hearing, or in this case, the Gauss rifle.
What happens when the nickel ferrous projectile hits its target is a demonstration of practical physics in action. The weapon completely abandons any explosives in exchange for the transfer of raw kinetic energy. Just for fun, let's play with the math a bit and try to figure out just how much energy we're talking about transferring from...
Ah, shoot. Should I put the Subway Surfers footage up? Because I know a lot of the younger audience might not necessarily be able to pay attention here.
Round to target. If we take the standard 8 Gauss rifle shots per ton, that would be 250 pounds per shot. If we're conservative and take out the structure needed to hold the ammo, let's figure 225 per shot. We can estimate the kinetic energy if we have the mass of the object fired and the velocity at which it is traveling when it hits the target. I wasn't able to find a specific muzzle velocity for an in-universe Gauss rifle, nor one in the real world, so we're going to fudge things a bit and use a number from a railgun developed by the US Navy, which can regularly hit.
And keep in mind, most of the time we make the Navy makes those sorts of things because they can. Is it practical? Hell no. And I believe the math would be kind of similar.
3,000 meters per second with its projectiles. If we take the weight of the round, multiply it by the velocity squared, and divide that result by 2, we'll know how much kinetic energy is being transferred. That's 225 pounds times 3,000 squared divided by 2, which is 459,262,274.625 joules of energy. To give you some...
That's a large number. It's a good thing he's giving context for this number. Because I think at some point you just kind of go, okay, that's a gigantic number. What does that actually mean?
Context on how much energy that is. A gram of TNT releases 4,184 joules of energy when it explodes. If we divide our Gauss rifle strike by that number, that gives us 109,966.32 grams of TNT.
That makes, that's making Minecraft blush a little bit.
Or roughly 242 pounds of TNT. That's a very big boom. If I got any of my math wrong, be sure to let me know in the comments. Just remember, I have a BA in history, not a BA in math.
You know what? I did. Even if his math is wrong, which I'm not going to sit here and try to dissect the math. We're here for mechs. We're here for booms. That just... I don't really want to take the time and try to figure out if that's right or wrong. It doesn't matter. That mech is going to feel the pain of a Gauss rifle.
On all that, you deserve a medal, so let's talk some history. The first prototypes of the Battletech-sized Gauss rifle were being tested as early as 2587. This put it up along with the PPC as one of the weapon systems that saw parallel development with the Battlemech.
So this was being developed about the time of the... I want to say the... I want to say it was one of the variations of the Behemoth, aka the Stone Rhino, if that's correct. If we're saying that, no, that wouldn't have been the Stone Rhino. That would have been the Martyr, I think. It was like one of the first battle mechs ever developed. Now, was it functional? Not really, but I mean, that is quite a long time ago
Mechs
in
need big
history.
guns. The Gauss rifle uses magnets, however they work, to propel the nickel ferrous projectile out at very high speeds without any explosive propellant or fuel. This means that the weapon produces almost no heat. Now, there's some argument about whether or not that is actually possible, but 1980s sci-fi. Let's just let that go. The trade-off is...
So I don't think it would actually produce any heat. Or I would say very, very little heat. Because essentially, you're sending electricity along... If I remember correctly, you're sending electricity along magnets to essentially pull the nickel projectile to insane speeds. So I'm going to say, yeah, it generates very little heat, if any. Like, I just don't see it producing that much heat. Maybe you'd have, like, some residual heat, like pretty much a warm engine, but that's going to be about it, I think. So again, you might get like 1 or 2 ticks maybe on your heat gauge, but that's really going to be about it.
Is that the energy required to operate the weapon needs to be stored before the shot, which can cause an explosion if those storage capacitors are damaged. 20 damage can make for a rough experience for the Gauss rifle equipped mech. Thankfully, the ammo is inert, and it doesn't suffer from ammo explosions. The advantages of being armed with such a powerful weapon that could hit from such long ranges far outweighs the risk for many Mechwarriors. Gauss rifles were more commonly found on heavy and assault mechs during the years of the SLDF due to the fact that it weighed 15 tons and took up 7 critical locations. However, the complex technology suffered along with many others during the Adamaris coup and the following succession wars. The weapon became much more rare along with those Star League era mechs. Often when a Gauss rifle needed repair or replacement parts, those parts were just impossible to get. So that weapon could have been replaced with other weapons like PPCs, lasers, and autocannons. A good example of one of these downgrades is the Highlander HGG 733, which swapped that Gauss rifle out for an AC-10, 2 more tons of ammo, and some additional LRMs. With the rediscovery of schematics and designs in the Helm memory core, production of Gauss rifles in the Inner Sphere could restart. This would be incredibly fortunate for the Inner Sphere states, as the clan invasion would test them to the breaking point. The clans never lost their ability to produce Gauss rifles, and, like with so many other areas, improved upon the design by cutting the weight by 3 tons and cutting the size down to 6 critical slots instead of 7. The Gauss rifle would be a crucial weapon along with the LB-10X,
which means you could actually field it on an Irby. I know I'm very cursed when I go duct taping things onto the Irby, but I gotta say, I love my really cursed trash cans. Anyways,
and upgrading Inner Sphere mechs to stand a chance against the clan invaders. The Gauss rifle was tremendously useful, as it was one of the few Inner Sphere weapons that could match the clans at range. In the Battle Mech manual, there's a quote that reads, "This machine kills clanners." That it does.
That it does.
As time passed, there were attempts to improve upon the original design among both the clans and the Inner Sphere. In 3056, the light Gauss rifle was introduced by the Free Worlds League. It weighed only 12 tons instead of 15 and took up only 5 critical locations. It even had a slight range boost over the original design. The drawback was that it suffered from a significant decrease in damage, 8 instead of 15. However, even with the loss in damage, the light Gauss rifle provided an additional option for mechs that wanted a long-range punch but didn't want to deal with heat. Not to be outdone, the Lyrans introduced the heavy Gauss rifle in 3061.
I think that would actually be more usable for light mechs, or light or medium mechs. I mean, you could definitely field a Gauss rifle on any of those, but it's not going to be pretty. You're going to have one weapon, and that's about it.
It was an attempt to do one better by greatly increasing the size of the weapon and the rounds it fires. Due to the fact that physics is a thing, the speed of such a large round decreased significantly in the planet's atmosphere. At close range, the heavy Gauss rifle's damage is devastating, able to penetrate the armor of most battle mechs no matter where it hits. At medium range, the damage drops from 25 to 20, which is still an incredible amount of harm on target. By long range, the damage drops to 10, which is actually still respectable. However, a ton of ammo will only give the mech 4 shots, so those have to count unless you're making an even bigger weight investment into the system. The HCR weighs 18 tons and must be mounted in a left or right torso due to the number of critical locations it fills. This limits...
You're really going to be devoting a lot to this heavy Gauss rifle, and again, 4 shots. Why is this starting to sound like the, what was it? The Romeo 60 Urbamech? AC-20 with like 5 shots, anybody? Like, this sounds very much like that. But at least At least you have a Gauss rifle that could absolutely mess up somebody's
The weapon
mech.
to only the heaviest of mechs on the battlefield. Clan scientists were not idle in the Gauss rifle department, even though they enjoyed the advantage over the current inner sphere version. In 3068, Clan Hell's Horses, in one of the few moments where they were actually useful for something, introduced the Hyper Assault Gauss rifle. We don't know how they were able to keep development a secret, though I suspect it had something to do with not wanting to waste time figuring out what the Clan's Hell Horses were up to. The weapon uses a series of capacitors and barrels to launch multiple Gauss rounds into a single shot.
Oh,
What it lacks in quality, it makes up for with quantity, sending a...
I'm sorry, did you develop a burst rifle? A burst fire Gauss rifle? That's cursed.
stream of projectiles into a target. The
Yeah,
Hell's Horses developed
that's kinda
3
cursed.
different types of hyper assault Gauss rifles and a bigger, biggest principle that ratchets up the weight and heat in exchange for firing more and more rounds at the target. There are a couple of special rules for the Hag rifles, including using cluster hits table to sort out how many rounds actually strike the target, with a +2 modifier on the roll for short range and -2 for long range. It can also be employed as a flak weapon for aerial targets. And yes, they still explode when they take a critical hit. Up to 20 points of damage with the Hag 40. The Hag 40's battle value...
And keep in mind, this is in the torso. So if you're running an XL engine, inner sphere version, I would imagine your entire mech is about to become a flambe. And also a big crater on the battlefield, well textured.
is an absurd
textured ground.
535, and 1 ton of ammo is 3 shots. I hope you make them count. The silver bullet gun...
So you're telling me this is a burst rifle, a burst Gauss rifle, but you get like 3 shots per ton. So this is like 3 volleys, like that just...
Gauss rifle was developed in the early 3050s in an attempt to replicate the shotgun-like effect of the LBX autocannons. Unfortunately, there were some pretty serious design complications which made it non-backward compatible with the standard Gauss rifle ammunition, and unable to work with a targeting computer. These limitations made the rifle seem much less attractive to designers and Mechwarriors, and the silver bullet Gauss rifle did not see widespread use. If you do run across it, note the slightly shortened max range and the fact that it still takes up 7 critical spots and will explode if you roll a critical on it. Oh, and the ammo explodes since it contains submunitions to create the shotgun effect. 15 points of damage for every shot left in the ammo bin. Not great. In the interest of keeping this video under an hour long, we're not going to get into the litany of infantry and small vehicle versions of the Gauss rifle. Maybe that's fodder for another video down the road. Just know,
you know
they're
what?
out there.
If you make that video, I definitely watch it. I definitely like to see the more infantry versions of these, because this is fascinating. Yes, please do an infantry version.
I haven't forgotten them. Some of the more notable battle mechs with Gauss rifles include some pretty impressive reputations for putting fire on target. The Nightstar 9J is equipped with 2 Gauss rifles, which make the 95-ton mech a brutal opponent.
Is this the Mechwarrior Online version? Because that looks a little weird.
You might get lucky and avoid a few shots, but eventually that bill is going to come due.
Oh, yes.
To continue the fun of not 1 but 2 Gauss
one.
rifles, the Stone Rhino is an iconic clan mech that can put up to 50 damage on target at distance when combining the Gauss rifles with its 2.
This thing still kind of terrifies me a little bit. I don't think I've ever faced a behemoth before. I guess this is a Stone Rhino. I have yet to face one in battle, but God, two Gauss rifles just pointed directly at you is just
large pulse
terrifying.
lasers. The 100-ton monster of a mech may not be an omni-mech, but it can definitely stand toe-to-toe with whatever you throw at it. One of the more famous battle mechs of the Inner Sphere just so happened to be armed with a Gauss rifle. Perhaps there is correlation there, not just because the mech's notable pilots. The Yen Lo Wang was a succession-era Centurion that saw multiple refits over its many years of use. However, the replacement of its AC-10 with a Gauss rifle in 3051 helped Justin Allard win many Solaris 7 matches, as the 50-ton brawler could rip up nearly a ton of armor in a single shot of the weapon. The mech achieved a fame of its own after Justin Allard with his son Kai when he saw victory on the battlefield and in the arena. An honorable mention has to go to the Hollander, a mech designed around the...
That's just... Yep, that is definitely the AC-10. That is definitely a A-10 Warthog version of mechs
Gauss
right
rifle
there.
it so famously carried into battle. It was a result of the Federated Commonwealth effort to quickly create a light mech that could act as a role of sniper against clan forces. Unfortunately, a lot had to be given up to mount such a large weapon on a 35-ton mech. What Mechwarriors received was a relatively slow, light mech with very little armor and just 16 shots for that Gauss rifle. Still, it was relatively cheap and easy to maintain, so it ended up spread across Federated Commonwealth units. It's interesting to note that the G1 variant of the Hollander replaces the Gauss rifle with an LB-10X in order to add secondary lasers and more armor, making it a much more well-rounded battle mech.
It definitely sounds like something I'd field, but without that armor, it kind of becomes a little bit of a issue there.
Finally, I don't think we could do a video on the Gauss rifle without mentioning the Highlander 732. This 90-ton mech's weapons loadout complements the Gauss rifle well, and the mech has plenty of armor and the ability to jump up to 90 meters, which helps offset its relatively slow run speed. It's a dangerous mech at any range, and all of this made the mech very popular amongst SLDF forces. It is unfortunately a good example of the downgrades that many mechs saw during the Succession Wars, which unfortunately resulted in the loss of the Gauss rifle with the 733 loadout. Even with these downgrades, the mech did remain popular, and by 3057, following the rediscovery of Gauss rifle production technology and the need for new Highlanders, more were being produced on the assembly line to meet the needs of future conflicts. And it was finally able to field
the weapons that was supposed to.
The legacy of the Gauss rifle is aided by our 21st century understanding of technology, which is just on the cusp of practical use. We've likely seen articles about the naval railgun development and videos of backyard engineers coming up with functioning Gauss devices. People interested in military technology know about kinetic penetrating rounds from tanks and anti-tank weaponry. It's easy for us to envision the carnage created by a mech-sized Gauss rifle because it has enough down-to-earth elements that can be understood while still having plenty of 31st century sci-fi flair. In short, it's a weapon we can respect because we can understand that firing something at a very high velocity towards a target is going to ruin someone's day. Do you have a favorite mech or variant that uses a Gauss rifle? Do you have a Gauss rifle story to tell? Let me know down in the comments. I'm having a blast doing these weapons.
There was actually a mech that I've seen in Mechwarrior Online. This was like several years ago, actually. I believe it was the Puma chassis or something lowered to the ground. This thing had 2, maybe 3 Gauss rifles on it. And its sole purpose was to sit up on a hill and just continue to fire shots down at other mechs. It was very effective, and it was kind of scary to watch it just rip through stuff. Because I'm basically brand new at the time, and while I was having fun, I wasn't necessarily doing the best in my poor Centurion. I think I may have ended up selling that one for the Daiichi, but yeah. I think the Centurion was a decent buy at the time, but I don't know. It was fun to see those Gauss rifles in operation, though.
Videos,
yeah, this was a great video.
Amazing. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to the Ko-Fi members for your support. If you want to support the channel and keep the resin flowing, a link to that is in the comment below.
And a link to this video will also be in the description of the video you're watching currently, if you want to go and support them, I definitely recommend it. I have been leaving the link to the videos in the cards as well to make sure that we give proper credit to the videos as we go along. But yeah, this has been absolutely amazing. I love the breakdowns of the various weapons systems that we have here. And the Gauss rifle is no exception. I really should do a build with it at some point, but with all that said, this has been Call Sign Annika, signing out.